Hello Fred, hello Clara, hello Coty, hello Bay, hi Albert. Well, today I'm up in the north of England in a place called Northumbria. Now I'm here to show you my brother Geoff, Uncle Geoff, engaging in some fly fishing. Fly fishing is where you use a little tiny piece of fly, looks a little bit like a fly, on the end of a line to fish for salmon or trout. He's going to show us first of all the equipment that he uses, and then he's going to take us onto the river and show us how he fishes, and hopefully maybe he's going to catch a fish. But I get the feeling that catching a fish is not something which happens every day, so we'll have to be lucky. So Geoffrey, this is the final stage of the putting on of the waders.
It is.
Could you demonstrate?
Well, I'm drawing up the...
Notice, by the way, the little pocket here where you can put your valuables. Fantastic. You actually fall in the river and float down and start pushing out your ID.
And I'm all ready for action in that sense.
So the one thing we seem to be missing is a fishing rod. Where's that?
What do you mean, why? Did you say
Where is the fishing
it?
rod?
It's here.
Could you show us the fishing rod?
This is a Gray's 13-foot gauge 9 fishing rod. It belongs in this little tube to protect it. It's a quite light and delicate thing, and I'm going to fit it together, and when I've done that I'm going to put a reel on it.
A reel of line, so to speak.
Yeah, indeed. This is a 3-piece rod, which is fairly normal for this sort of size, and they fit together like that. And you have to do them fairly tightly together actually, because if you don't and they fall apart when you're fishing, that is bad news.
What would happen if you fell apart when you were fishing?
Well, the main, if you've got a large fish on, the main way in which you fight it is by the tension in the rod. If the rod has lost one of its things, it loses a lot of strength, and probably the fish will break the rod, or else you'll lose the fish. So you just need to make sure it's really tight. So there we are, that is a 13-foot salmon fishing rod. This is a fishing jacket, which is quite an interesting piece of kit. It's really a way of carrying a load of stuff, but in this particular case, so for instance in here I've got flies, which I'll be putting on the end of the line.
Can you just have a look at those? Those are the flies.
Those are the flies,
And
yeah.
what do they do?
What do you mean, what do they do?
Well,
they're supposed to tempt the salmon into having a go at catching the
I'm
line.
asking this question for the viewers' benefit.
Ah, right, okay, yeah. So I'm just going to put one on the end of the line in a minute.
Yeah.
Right. The other thing is that I'm going to be using is, I'm going to find somewhere here a piece of line, actually.
Anything else about the jacket that makes it particularly useful for a fisherman?
Well, it's inflatable. So
No.
Pardon?
It's inflatable.
It's inflatable. If I fall in the river, it inflates like a life jacket that you get on an aeroplane.
Yeah.
It's exactly the same as that.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
Automatically or?
Automatically, I don't have to pull anything or anything like that. If I fall in the river and the damp gets to a certain level, it will inflate.
Have you ever seen that happen?
No, I haven't.
Let's hope it works.
And I hope never to see it happen as well.
So Geoff, what
Yeah.
sort of fish are we looking to catch?
Salmon and sea trout.
And what are the salmon and sea trout doing at the moment?
Right, well, salmon and sea trout come in from the sea, where they spend several years, and then they will swim up the river till they reach the top of the river, where they spawn, where they make new salmon and sea trout. but they have to get to the top of the river, and they're very focused on doing that at the minute.
And what do they eat?
They don't eat anything when they're in the river. They eat out at sea. When they're out at sea, that's not true for sea trout. Let me focus on salmon.
Okay, focus on salmon. But my question is, if they don't want to eat, how are you going to catch them? Because normally when you catch fish, you put a maggot on the line.
Yeah, I know.
And they eat the maggot, and inside
odd.
the maggot is a hook.
Nobody quite knows why, but I mean, you can see that's a good example of a fly.
Yeah, you had to explain what a fly is.
The fly, it.
Can you just show me your flies there?
Right. These are called flies because they are originally made really to imitate fly life and other kind of life in the river.
Yeah.
To tempt fish to eat them. But so for trout and sea trout, these are big flies. You wouldn't use these for sea trout and trout. They're salmon flies. Mm-hmm. Salmon seem to respond to irritation, to being presented with this thing which annoys them, and they'll go have a grab for it. But they are not feeding when they're in the river.
Okay.
Because they feed up.
So you irritate them.
Yeah.
With something which resembles a fly.
It resembles a fly or a small fish, actually. That's the other thing they resemble.
And they will grab hold of this thing, and when they grab hold of it,
hopefully they will grab hold of it, and it will the hook will embed in their gill in the lip of the fish.
Okay.
And then that enables you to pull it
out of the river. We've arrived at the river from the car, and Geoff, would you just explain to us what you're looking at, the different parts of the river?
Right. Well, if you look down there, you can see that there's a lot of rapid water, and it goes on for a good few hundred yards. That water is fairly shallow, perhaps 1 or 2 foot. And what will happen is that when the fish come to that water, they'll run right through it. They'll just keep swimming through it until they get to here. When they get to here, the river deepens, and they'll effectively have a rest. And what you have here is what's called a pool. There's the bottom of the pool. Top of the pool is round the corner, and that's an area where the fish will kind of rest. They'll move slowly. They might stay in the pool for quite some time, actually, and that will give them. That's when they're most likely to be caught.
So this is where we're going to fish?
We're going to fish a bit further up, about 50 yards further up.
Thank you.
Whoa, see that?
That was amazing, wasn't it? That was a big fish. And he's coming this way. So there was a great big
You
splash.
probably missed that. So here we are in slow motion, a salmon leaping.
We didn't manage to catch any fish in the river, so Geoff has brought me to this small lake which is owned by his fishing club, and as you can see, it's a little corner of paradise. We're in this, there's just the two of us, we're in the middle of this wood, and there's our car, little cabin with various bits and pieces, and then further round you'll see the lake. Once we've adjusted, there you go. There's the lake, and you'll see just by the corner of the lake a few boats. And I'm now going to get into the boat and row Geoff into the middle of the lake, and he will no doubt catch us a fish. Okay, well, I'm rowing Geoff into the middle of this lake, and it's absolutely fabulous. I'm really enjoying it. I've never enjoyed anything so much in my life. And I'm really looking forward to seeing Geoff catching the fish he has promised me.
One rainbow trout.
Fantastic, look at him.
Sorry, I've got that round. Wow, I've got around your ear. Brilliant. Absolutely first class. Oh, stop it.
Catch that fish.
How did I manage to catch that fish?
Yeah, you caught a fish.
Well, it was using an appropriate fly at the right part of the lake, which was near the shoreline, because I thought we'd seen one near the shoreline, and I've caught near the shoreline before. So I had a fly, which sank reasonably well. It was a very light buzzer, and it was very dark in colour, and I just felt it. I could see the fish pulling on it, so that was it.